Hey guys, MrPokke here, back with another video, and today we finally have the latest updated CN usage rate for the Robin's patch in the latest Memory of Chaos. This time featuring both Robin as well as Aventurine, because he was not included in the previous Memory of Chaos since it was an old MOC, right? So without further ado, let's get into today's content.
Subscribe!
Okay, chat. As you guys can see, I'm not sure if you guys were familiar in my previous video. I did a similar video back then for the last MOC where we showed CN's best and worst, right? Most used, least used, fastest, clearest, all that kind of stuff. So this is exactly going to be the same, except this time it's going to be featuring our latest Memory of Chaos for the Kafka stage with the new MOC buff featuring 20% max energy to the entire team, right? So this is going to be here. This is only going to be for MOC 12, 26,874 samples. Last updated at the 14th of May, right? The last update 14th of May, and then they have combined everything as of today, which is the 18th of May. First half weak to lightning, second half weak to imaginary and physical. And then you can see over here, a minimum criteria is that everybody, you have to get a full 3 stars clear, and every single team must have at least 3 people. All right, so I have my 3 units today. I do want to just stress a little bit more. I think previously my viewers are a little bit confused on what exactly is 使用率 and what exactly is 登场率, right? So 使用率 is if you own the unit, like if the unit is part of your inventory, do you use them in Memory of Chaos? If 1,000 people own dr.ratio and 900 people use dr.ratio in MOC, then dr.ratio's usage rate is going to be 90%, right? 登场率is your entire sample of Memory of Chaos. For example, if there's 1,000 Memory of Chaos clears, and your 登场率 is, for example, if Aircron is at 68.1%, it means that 68.1% of all MOC 12 clears use Aircron. 使用率, 登场率, and finally gonna be the 平均轮数, which is gonna be the average clear cycle, right? So let's just first talk about the usage rate, right? This is gonna be the usage rate. Aventurine being the most used unit as of the latest MOC 12 at 93.5%, meaning 93.5% of all Aventurine users used Aventurine in MOC 12, which is a very, very good number, beating out even Acheron at 86.9%, Sparkle at 84.5%, and Hue going up to 82.9%, picking up with the tier 0 for usage rate. And then dropping down slightly is going to be Fu Xuan at 76.9%, Robin at 76.2%, Black Swan 75.7%, as well as RUAN MEI at 74.6%. So it is quite interesting to see that we do see Sparkle being the highest used unit compared to Robin and RUAN MEI. This is for all players who own Sparkle, Robin, and RUAN MEI, right? So very, very interesting to see over here. And then Black Swan is gonna be pretty up there. The fact that Black Swan has a higher usage rate than Kafka, it is quite interesting. So this is gonna be Ji, then Gao is gonna be basically a high tier. Imbibitor Lune coming in at 69.4%, Topaz at 61.8%, Kafka, Topaz roughly around the same, Silver Wolf 58.9%, Pella being our first 4-star at 55.7%, edging out even Ting Yun, which is only at a 39.7% usage rate. That is very, very surprising. Luocha at 50.7%, being the lowest of all of our limited sustains. Unfortunately, it is what it is. And dr.ratio coming at 33.1%. And then this is going to be the mid category, featuring our first Harmony at Bronya, having an even lower usage rate than Ting Yun at 29.1%. Jingyuan and Blade and Jingliu, these three 20%, 19.8%, 15.8%. It is what it is. I mean, it is not really exactly their elements. So there's no wind weakness, right? There's no wind weakness, as well as no ice weakness. So I can't understand why Blade and Jingliu is not doing too good. But I am a little bit surprised to see Jingyuan still at 20% usage rate when the first half is literally weak to lightning. So that's quite interesting. Clara, Japar, not much to talk about. Argenti, it is what it is. Gallagher, Scylla at only 9.8%. Very, very unfortunate. I think one of the main reasons just because I'm not sure if you guys have noticed, recently our MOC 12 mobs, they are getting increasingly more difficult to kill. I'm not sure if you guys have noticed, even the dogs in the first half, as well as the little gunmen from the second half, they are much beefier compared to our previous MOC rotations. So I can see why Scylla will be having a more difficult time clearing Memory of Chaos 12, especially for a under-invested Scylla. So it is what it is. Finally, this is going to be the low usage rate. I don't think we need to talk about it much over here. Basically, very little people use them. The change rate dropping all the way down to 1.9%. Quick and firm 5%, almost up there. Harmony MC being very low at 3.9%. That is quite interesting. Maybe people are not exactly too attuned to the super break meta. Super break. And keep in mind, the data is only collected between the 13th of May and the 14th of May. It is only a singular 24-hour period, right? So there should be more and more players using this, but this data is only collected in a single day. So keep that in mind. Weld, links, Yukong, all the kind of stuff. So that's gonna be that for our usage rate, right? So this is our usage rate. If you own a unit, do you use your unit in MOC? That is usage rate. 登场率, appearance rate, right? Appearance rate. Okay, editors, I forgot to say this. Usage rate, appearance rate. Usage rate, appearance rate, right? Appearance rate. So the appearance rate, like I mentioned, this is basically amongst all MOC 12 clears, how many of them appeared in the MOC 12. So you can see first ranking is still going to be Acheron. That means out of every single MOC 12 clear, 68.1% of the players use Acheron in MOC 12. Not too surprised there. Sparkle and Rame still topping the charts at 68.4, 64%, very little difference. Pella and Fu Xuan being the second higher appearance rate at 55.4 as well as 52.1%. And then we're going to go into a high. Huan, Robin, Ting Yun, Silver Wolf, Aventurine, and Bibital Lane all hovering around the low 40s, high 30% range. And then dr.ratio, Black Swan, Kafka, Bronya, Luocha is going to be roughly around the low 30s to high 20s range, right? So that's going to be the high. And then for the mid-range usage rate, Topaz at 19.8%, Clara, Japard, falls off drastically. So from Topaz almost made it to the high, but didn't quite make it. Then everyone else is just sub 10% usage rate. So out of all MOC 12 clears, for example, like you only see 8% of them running Jing Liu, 8% running Jing Yuan, 6% running Blade, still at 5.4, Bai Lu, Gwen Ifen, Links, and so on and so forth. And then this is going to be the lowest of them all, right? So out of all MOC 12, only 2.4% of players use Argenti clearing MOC 12, right? That's going to be Weld, Qinque, Yukong, Asta, Hanya. Not much to be said about here. So that is going to be that for the appearance rate. Now, for the next most important factor, it is going to be our average cycle. You might think that usage rate and appearance rate might determine the strength of unit, but that is usually not the case. It is simply of how many people use them to clear a stage, right? Be it a 0 cycle clear, 10 cycle, as long as you use them to clear, it is considered a clear. So let's just see the average cycle and who is going to be the one getting the lowest average cycle, and that is going to be Robin, Topaz, and Bronya having the lowest average cycle, despite the fact that their appearance rate, it is much lower compared to RUAN, MEI, Sparkle, and Acheron. Acheron is a higher clear cycle than Imbibitor Lune. That is kind of crazy. So the highest is going to be Robin at 5.95, the fastest average clear cycle, followed up by Topaz, then followed up by Bronya. I'm just going to be real, I am very surprised to see Bronya being ranked in the fastest cycle for this specific Memory of Chaos. I'm very surprised. Beating out even Sparkle with an average clear cycle of 6.57. The differences is going to be very little because the sample size is going to be cut up amongst like 26,000 different clears. Minimal difference, but the difference is still there, right? And then we're going to see the next highest tier, which is going to be Sparkle and averaging 6.57, Duo at 6.61, Black Swan at 6.73, Aircon at 6.75, and finally RUAN, MEI at 6.77, being the slowest average clear cycle compared to Robin, Bronya, and Sparkle. So that is quite interesting to see. And then moving on into the high tier, right? This is the third tier over here. Adventuring at 6.82, which is pretty much what you would expect because this is like our first sustain, right? Because usually if people were to be running a sustain, their average clear cycles would go up by slightly more compared to people that just run a triple harmony. So Adventuring, the fastest sustain at 6.82, followed by Kafka 6.89, Ting Yun at 6.94, Pella at 7, Ratio 7.03, Huan very close to Adventure at 7.04 average cycle, followed by Silver Wolf, Fu Xuan as well as Yu Kong. So we can see that out of the 3 limited sustains, Adventuring does have the fastest average clear cycle, which I'm personally not very surprised because I do believe that Adventuring himself, if you give him a very, very good build, he is going to be the sustain that deals the most amount of damage, which can attribute to the fastest clear. On top of the fact that follow-up team right now is just doing ridiculously well. This team just performs ridiculously well, so I'm not too surprised to see him being the top for the clear cycle over there. Going into the mid category, we do see Jingliu at 7.31, followed by Scylla. So Scylla, despite her very low appearance and usage rate, she still do a pretty decent clear at 7.4 cycle on a stage that literally has no quantum weakness. So that is very, very good to see. Jingliu also doing quite well, despite the fact that there is no ice weakness, 7.31. Luocha at 7.52, which is going to be the slowest out of all of our limited sustains, which is also to no one's surprise because Luocha doesn't offer any additional utility other than the skill point positivity, right? Then Japard, Qingxue actually doing not too bad, 7.61, only a little bit slower than Scylla. And then we have Hanya at 7.63. Jingyuan, unfortunately, falling off by quite a bit, which is a little bit concerning because of the fact that the first half is literally weak to lightning. So I am a little bit shocked to see Jingyuan being still ranking in the mid category, despite the fact that we are literally on element for Jingyuan, right? Jingliu and Scylla, despite being off element, getting an average faster clearing cycle is a little bit interesting. Then Gallagher's over here, Blade at 7.74 and Argenti at 7.84. It is what it is, off element, and their kit is just functionally not as strong as compared to a lot of other units in front. Well, Yang actually doing not too bad for DPS or slash sustain himself, 7.89, with an Asa 7.93. And finally, this is gonna be like our slowest clears, featuring Clara, Bailu, Lynx, Gui Naifen, Harmony Trailblazer, as well as Sambo. So that is gonna be the slowest clear out of everybody. We're just gonna jump into the changes between this Memory of Chaos and the previous Memory of Chaos, right? So this is gonna be the changes. Red in CN is good. Red in CN is increase, green is decrease. Unlike Western, where red is decrease and green is increase. So it's the opposite. Adventuring coming in the first time ever since he was released, because we did not include Adventuring's banner for the previous MMC rotation. 93.5%, absolutely ridiculous usage rate. Robin coming in at 76.2% usage rate. And then we have Topaz being our largest jump out of every single unit that is not a new unit, right? Topaz jumping on 25.9% all the way up to 61.8%. A 35.9% increase of Topaz. Absolutely insane. Second place is going to be Imbibitor Lunate, jumping up from 43% all the way up to 69.4%. Aging out even Topaz, but the growth is not as much as Topaz at 26.4% in this MOC 12. Dr.Ratio also saw a very sizable increase from 10% to 33.1%, jumping up by 23.1%. Most likely is also going to be attributed to just the Adventuring, Robin, Topaz ratio is just a ridiculously good comp, especially in this Memory of Chaos. The rest of the units, I'm not really going to talk about this that much because these are, less than 10% is just, it is what it is. Clara jumped up a little bit. Blade also jumped up by a little bit, which is quite nice to see because, we do not have win winners, but Blade still rose, so that's nice. And then we're going to just jump all the way down to the biggest loser, and that's going to be Jingliu, falling off by the largest amount from 52.3% previously to 15.8% currently, minusing 36.5%. But the main reason is also because Jingliu, we do have no ice weakness in this MOC 12, because the previous MOC 12 Adventuring, Jingliu was probably your premier ice DPS when you were using her for Adventuring. So it is understandable why her usage rate dropped by so much, because there is no longer ice weakness for Jingliu to use, right? But another one, which is Luocha, dropping off by a 25.3% from 76 to 50%. That is quite interesting. It's almost as if Adventuring just does a better job than Luocha in every single regard. So it is what it is. Fu Xuan also dropping by a little bit. Sustains in general just dropped off by quite a little bit. I think just with the introduction of Adventuring really changed the format of who should we bring, like Fu Xuan, Luocha. But because of follow-up team comps, Adventuring did so much damage and can work with everybody. Adventuring's high usage rate as a sustain does lead to other sustain dropping in their own usage rate. I am quite surprised to see Bronya and Rame dropping by such a big margin. Bronya's usage rate dropped down by 14.6% from 43.7 all the way down to 9.1%, and Run-Mei, which was one of, if not the strongest support we had since the beginning of the game, has dropped down from 88.9 to 74.6, which is a 14.3% drop off with the introduction of Robin. So I guess this is also a very, very clear sign that for follow-up team comps, or as we get more and more team comps coming out in Honkai Star in the future, Run-Mei's universal strength, I also mentioned this in my previous tier list as well. Run-Mei being universal, it is not necessarily something that free-to-plays or low spenders could have to care, because realistically speaking, if you are a free-to-play or low spender, you will not need to build every single team comp. A good free-to-play or low spender account should only focus on very limited team comps and make them to be the best of your abilities, right? So for example, if you want to play follow-up and DOT, you only invest in follow-up and DOT. You shouldn't be investing follow-up, DOT, break team, hyper carry, because you are simply not going to have enough resources, right? So we do see that RUAN does drop off a little bit here. I will be interested to see how we're going to go forward, especially when Boot Hill comes out, because Boot Hill with Harmony NC, RUAN should be dealing very, very nice, especially when we do get the new Apocalyptic Shadows. We can see how it goes from there. Pella dropping usage rate by 12.9%, also because previously we had Ice Weakness. AoE defense style also help with the dicer, so that's them there. Stilla also dropping by quite a big amount from Quantum Weak stage to no Quantum Weak, dropping by 12.4%. And that is pretty much it for the most part of our changes from the current MOC to the previous MOC. And one last segment before we wrap up the video for today is going to be our team usage rate. Right, so for team statistics, highest usage rate is going to be a follow-up team. Follow-up team completely destroying all competition by a whopping 70.4% usage rate. So this means that if a player owns Topaz, Aventurine, Ratio, Robin, 70% of them will be using it in MOC. And this is to nobody's surprise because this current MOC is just suits our follow-up comp so well. Absolutely insane. Literally almost doubling our previous best in slot DOT team. I'm not sure if you guys watched my previous video. My previous video, our last MOC, DOT comps were the highest in terms of usage rate. But now they've fallen off by pretty much half compared to our new follow-up team comp. So that is very, very nice to see how the meta can change in a new MOC buff and all that kind of stuff. So DOT at the second highest usage rate at 35.5%, and then we do have the Aircron team comp with Aircron, Fu Xuan, Silver, and Pella at 19.9%. I think this is our very, very standard Aircron team, right? So that's gonna be there. And then fourth ranking is gonna be our Imbibitor Lune Hyper Carry featuring Huan Huan, Sparkle, and Ting Yun. Very, very nice. Just 1.1%, slightly lower than Aircron over here. And then at 19.8% is gonna be basically a DOT team, but swap out Huo Huo for Luo Cha. And then 15.1, the rest of the style is just slight variations between our follow-up comms, DOT comms, hyper carry comms between DO and Aircon, right? So our top 10, you can see that it is now a lot more nuanced. It is not so one-dimensional. I think the previous MOC, almost every single team in the top 10 had Aircon, but now it is no longer the case. Now, Aircon only appeared in 3 of the positions in the top 10, and now we have seen units that follow up, we're seeing more DOT, even Imbibitor Lune appear quite a decent number of times. He appeared twice in the top 10 team comp. So yeah, it does seem that Aircon is not super just completely dominating the meta as compared to the previous MOC, right? So that's gonna be our top 10 for usage rate, and then dumping into appearance rate, it is going to still be the same. Follow-up team comp having the highest appearance rate. So out of every single MOC 12 clears, 10% of MOC 12 clears made use of the follow-up team comp. And the second team that's going to be the second highest is going to be the Aircron team, beating out the DOT team comp. That means there were more appearance of Aircron teams than DOT in general, but slightly 1.5%, right? And the rest of us is Aircron, DOT, Aircron, Imbibitor Lune, Aircron. Scylla Hyper Carry actually made a pretty decent appearance at 3.6%. The Mono Quantity actually made a pretty decent appearance at 3.6%. Top 7 actually. So that's quite nice. And we do have another variation of the DOT, Imbibitor Lune, as well as Aircron, right? So yeah, that's quite easy. And now let's take a look at the fastest average cycle team. The fastest average cycle team is going to be, holy shit, at an average of 1.17 cycles. RUAN, Black Swan, Robin, and Kafka. 4% appearance rate, 0.7%. Sorry, 4% usage rate, 0.7% appearance rate, an average of 1.17 cycles, which means that out of 100% of MOC 12 clears, 0.7% made use of this dual DOT comp, absolutely destroying the next competition, which is gonna be our hyper carry Aircron running Bronya, Sparkle, Aircron, and Pella, averaging 1.61 cycles, right? The third number one is gonna be a hyper carry Imbibitor Lune, Imbibitor Lune, RUAN, Sparkle, and Ting Yun, averaging 1.83. And these 3 are like the only 3 comps that had a sub 2 cycle average clear. So you can see DOT, Aircron hyper carry, and Imbibitor Lune hyper carry having the lowest average cycles. The follow-up team comp is actually not gonna be here. 4th is still gonna be Imbibitor Lune, but this jumps all the way down from no sustain to a sustain. So I guess you could say the fastest clear for a team with sustain is going to be Imbibitor Lune, Huo Huo, Robin, and Tingyun. I have personally never tried this team out for myself. Inhibitor Lune Huo Robin team, I have personally never used it. That is quite interesting to see this team popping off. But I would say 95% of the time, this team is going to be used in the second half, right? So 595 means only 5% used in the first half, 95% in the bottom half. Then number 5 is going to be our classic Dotcron. I think we should all know by now, Dotcron is absolutely ridiculous. Nothing much here. And another Inhibitor Lune, and then we do have another Aircron. So unfortunately, our follow-up team did not place in the top 10 in terms of a average cycle. I do not see Topaz, I do not see Ratio. The top 10, they are all pretty much taken up by Inhibitor Lunes, Aircrons, and DOT. Our follow-up team actually placed at number 12, an average of 5.59 cycles, right? So this is gonna be our number 12 ranking Topaz, Aventurine, Ratio, and Robin. Okay, to be fair, probably the reason why this average cycle is so much higher compared to, the rest of the team is simply because it is also the highest used team. All these samples you can see, the sample size is very, very small. 0.7%, 0.9%, 1%, 0.4. They are very, very small, and therefore it will likely lead to a bias where people that use these team comps probably knew exactly what they were doing. Whereas if you had a much larger sample size, they are going to include clears from like 0 cycles all the way to 10 cycles, and they're just going to lump everything together. So because we do have a larger sample size for our follow-up team comp, it will slightly increase their overall clear cycle, right? So that is going to be my hypothesis as to why this is not in the top 10. For our final segment before we wrap up this CN usage rate analysis, it's going to be the worst, right? So let's see the worst. So the least used team is going to be Silver Wolf, Japart, Sparkle, Aircron, followed by a Hyper Carry Clara with Huan, Rame, and Robin at the lowest used. And then we have a Blade with Blade, Bronya, Sparkle, Locha being the... they are all roughly around the same. 1.4%, 1.4, 1.4, 1.5 to 1.4%. So around the same place, right? So we have Blade, we have Kafka, we have Dockerons, we have a lot of other things. These are like your niche comps. So I don't think it's really representative of anything. So same thing for appearance. You can see that the lowest appearance rate is going to be our Blade team is going to be the lowest appear. So out of every single MOC 12 clear, Blade only appear in 0.2% of them. And the second lowest is going to be Inhibitor Lune, Luocha, Rame, and Robin. And Argenti at our third least appeared team in MOC with Argenti, Huan, Tingyun, and Bronya. Then we have a lot of Clara Hyper Carry team comps. So follow-up team comp, but instead of using Ratio, they use Clara. So also in the bottom of the appearance rate, all these, they don't really matter because it just basically means that they are niche team comps. It does not mean that by any means they are bad team comps, right? Remember, our fastest clears, usually their appearance rate is very, very low. So having low appearance rate does not mean that the team comp is bad. What will show the team comp is bad is gonna be the slowest clear cycle on average. And that is going to be Blade, Huan, Sparkle, Bronya being the slowest average clear. I mean, it is what it is because number 1, we do not have wind weakness, and number 2, Blade himself is just inherently just doesn't deal as much damage compared to the rest of our DPS, right? So Blade does come in at rank 1 for the slowest clears out of everybody at 8.51 average clear. And then second is going to be Clara at Clara, Sparkle, Tingyun, and Huan at 8.5 as well. And third is also going to be this was a classic. I think previously in our previous MOC 12, Jingliu Blade was also the slowest clears. So Jingliu Blade, Huan, and Rame at an average of 8.46 cycles. And then we have a very weird Kafka Black Swan Aircraft with Bailu at an 8.46 cycles average. And then we have another Blade and Jingliu com, and this is gonna be a Japart, Acheron, Kafka, and Black Swan and an average of 8.4 cycles. That is quite interesting to see. Basically, they changed out the sustain for another one over here. And then we have Gallagher being with the Dockeron, but just doesn't do well. I guess the main problem with this team is if you take out Ranmei, you lose a lot of damage amplification. Because without Ranmei, you can't buff your Kafka, you can't buff a Black Swan, you can't buff your Aircraft. So in the end, none of them are really amplifying anything, with the exception of Black Swan's defense now. And Kafka doesn't really do anything for Aircraft other than applying a little bit of stacks, right? So it is what it is. And number 10 is gonna be Jingyuan at Jingyuan, Fuxuan, Ranmei, as well as Tingyun at an 8.26 cycles. And then the rest of the stuff, I think it kind of just goes around hand in hand. Don't really much to talk about over here. With that, I believe we have came to the end of our very interesting CN usage rate analysis. That's gonna be that. If you guys have any further discussions, leave it down in the comments below or join the Discord, discord.gg/Pokke village. We're a very active community talking about Honkai story on a daily basis. If you want to want to check out my stream, there's twitch.tv/MrPokke. I'll be streaming every single day. Schedule upload on Discord. This is gonna be day 17 of my subathon. I'm still alive, but I'm barely breathing, right? So all the best for your Robin pools. All the best for your Warring Wave pools, because Warring Wave is gonna be coming out in 4 days. And I'll see you guys next time. Take care.